What's up, everybody? It's Coach Dave, and I lift.
And Laura, and I lift, and welcome to the She Lifts.
He Lifts podcast. And tonight, it is happy hour. That's right. We are talking about our hydration, about all of the things that we drink, whether it's water, whether it's our sports drinks, whether it's alcohol, or whether it's those 0-calorie light drinks or those liquid calories that we consume. We're going to talk about it all, and hopefully we're going to find something that's going to strike a chord with you and help you just get a little further along in your fitness journey. And one of the things when it comes to hydration, the most important thing, obviously, it starts with water. Every nutrition program, every workout program, everything I've ever come across in the fitness industry has started with drink more water. Why is that? Well, first of all, our body is 80% water. So it stands to reason we gotta keep water coming in. Here's another thing. As we break down our fat cells, if our body is 80% water, that means our fat cells are mostly water. And as our fat is stored, the water that is in our fat cells, if you can think about it like a swimming pool with the filter turned off, gets stagnant. So as we break down and we get that water out, that water gets a little funky. We want to keep flushing our system out. So we're constantly flushing our system out as we go along. We want to be running at peak efficiency, so that means we need to drink more water. Right, Laura?
Absolutely. Not only do we need to drink more water and only consume water when we're talking about hydration, you can actually, there's a term called like eat your water. This does not replace drinking water, just for the record, but you can get water through your fruits and vegetables as well. So definitely in the times like summertime, make sure you are not only drinking more water, but also consuming consuming foods that tend to hold on to water, like fruits and vegetables do. And then we also want to make sure we are balancing out our water with our electrolytes. So I'm going to try to make a semi-complicated topic as simple as I can. So we're going to talk about the sodium potassium pump and why you not only want to drink water, but you also want to increase your salt intake. So we are always pushed like, don't eat too much salt, don't eat too much salt. Make sure you stay under, I think it's like 1,500 milligrams per day because you don't want to have too much salt. But you actually, if you're not eating processed foods, because processed foods are filled with salt, the less processed food you eat, the more you need to add salt to your food, add salt to your water, they make like hydration packets, which I'll get into in a little bit, but we have something in our bodies called the sodium potassium pump. The way that our cells, our intracellular fluid and our extracellular fluid just tends to be, we have to use some energy to pump sodium into our cells. We need to pump sodium into our cells because as sodium follows that gradient from outside of our cells, so we're pumping sodium in, we tend to have more sodium on the outside of our cells, and that sodium is going to follow that gradient. As our sodium follows that gradient, it pumps potassium, so some of our electrolytes, into that cell. When we don't balance our extracellular fluid with enough salt or too much water, that pump can't work efficiently. When that pump can't work efficiently, our cells can't work efficiently, which means our neurons aren't firing like they should be. So we're going to have a harder time transmitting brain to muscle signals, but also just like our thoughts in general. And the way our brain chemistry works will get affected by that. And we will also get, our muscles won't work properly. So we're going to get more muscle cramps. We're going to get more muscle fatigue. So we need to make sure that we are eating that salt so that that pump can work properly. We get what's called water poisoning. And now this is way less common than I would say like the media makes it seem. I think there was like some lady on TikTok, my husband told me about this like a couple weeks ago. She like tried to drink, I'm probably completely wrong, but she tried to drink like a certain amount of water bottles in like a certain amount of time or something like that. And she ended up getting what's called water poisoning, and then she ended up dying. Yes, you can die from water poisoning, but it is not a common thing. You are going to notice symptoms way long before and ignoring those symptoms to get you to the point of death. So just to give you an idea of, again, as long as you are getting in that salt, this isn't going to happen to you. You can start to get dizzy. You can start to have a little bit of confusion. You can get lightheaded. Um, you're going to notice that like your body's not working like it should, and that should be a red flag. When we sweat excessively, as we sweat, salt comes out of our sweat. So when we're not replacing that sweat with, or sorry, when we're not replacing that salt in our food intake or our water intake, we are going to start to notice some of those symptoms. I haven't talked about this in a couple episodes, but I am currently in my garage, which means it's like indoor outdoor. So I'm working out outside, and when I always lately I've been having liquid IVs in my garage like every day that I work out because I feel a lot better when I'm consuming salt. I personally do like the liquid IVs because they have some electrolytes in there. It's not just like salt and water. They do have like some B12 and I cannot remember if they have potassium off the top of my head. It's like literally right there. I could go look, but I'm being lazy. So I like liquid IVs. There's also a brand called LMNT. It's like LMNT, the letters. They make a sodium hydration packet. There are a couple too. One of my clients uses one. It's called BioSteel or something like that. And that one doesn't have as much sodium as I would like. So we want to be replacing like a couple hundred milligrams of sodium when we are sweating excessively outside. And not only do we want to focus on our potassium, but we also want to focus on the other electrolytes that our body needs as well.
Exactly. And I think electrolytes are one of those things, like you said, it's a complicated topic, so we are trying to break it down into a as simple as we can explain it, and B to fit it in the time that we have allowed. But the potassium, sodium. The other one is magnesium, and magnesium is a very important one. It helps with calcium transport, so it helps strengthen your bones. It also helps strengthen your nerve signal. So again, when you get that brain fog, when you start getting that feeling run down, it helps with energy production. Magnesium is one of those things that is going to be going to help you get into sort of a more a better functioning body. It's going to help your mind. It's going to help your bones. It's going to help your energy. Magnesium is one of those things, and a lot of times when we're feeling fatigued, we reach for something caffeinated rather than something a little salty or full of magnesium. Magnesium supplement is another one of those supplements I think that more people could benefit from than not, because we have conditioned ourselves to try to avoid sodium and avoid electrolytes because we've told sodium causes high blood pressure, causes you to swell. And in large amounts, that is true, especially when we are, like Laura said, when we start making that switch to whole foods, though, and start cutting out the processed carbs and the processed salt and the processed sugars that use those salts for preservatives, suddenly our salt intake goes way down. And that's why a lot of times when you see people make extreme nutrition choices right off the bat, they'll lose a shit ton of weight because they're taking in so much less sodium that their body's not holding as much water. But once we start moving along, that's where magnesium becomes important. The other thing that Laura said, like she said, liquid IVs, LMNTs, those are great things. Now, the one thing I will say, watch those things because they are not meant to be replacing your water all day, every day. LMNT, liquid IV, and sports drinks like Gatorade, Powerade, those types of things. They have lots of sugar, they have lots of salt, or lots of sodium, and the sodium is the good part. Sugar is a little. You don't want to watch the amount of sugar that you're taking. A lot of people will drink those all day, every day because they think, oh, Gatorade, it's good for you. The salt, it's going to help me with energy. Next thing you know, you've drank 100 grams of sugar. We want to, and that's one of those things we want to get out of the habit of is drinking our calories.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to say something about magnesium.
Good.
Magnesium, when you supplement magnesium, it is difficult for it to cross your blood-brain barrier. And magnesium does cause like or does give you cognitive benefits as well. So when you're looking for a magnesium supplement, make sure you're looking for one that can cross the blood-brain barrier, or it's really not going to do a whole lot for you. Just a tip.
So I just learned something today, by the way. I've never heard that before. I mean, I know that it crosses the blood, but I've never known that a lot that supplements that it's that
It's
was
starting to be more common now. Like the supplement companies are starting to do that now.
I think, and it's funny that we're talking about this right now because I think in the last, and when I say recently, I'm talking like within the last couple of months, I've started hearing more about have more salt in your diet, have more salt in your diet, have more salt in your diet for years. And again, we've talked about this before. How I'm a little bit older than Laura. For years growing up, salt was the worst thing in the world. Salt, you don't want to put extra salt. There's a whole line of spices that are salt free, and they kind of taste me. But that because people with high blood pressure, they wanted them to stay away from salt. Well, the problem was they were eating so much processed foods in the 80s and early 90s. We were eating TV dinners and boxed mac and cheese and all this stuff that we ate, and not just when we were kids, but as we got older. No wonder we all had high blood pressure. So Laura's just shaking her head like, yeah.
Yeah.
Also let us play
Yeah.
with laundry. So that's you know. Anyway, but the going back to what I was saying about the sports drinks. Sports drinks are great when you are outside. When you are like Laura working out in her garage. If you go outside and you play basketball in the summertime or soccer, or you are outside cutting your grass and you've got a big yard and you're spending a whole day outside doing a lot of yard work. That's when those things come into play. But to just drink that throughout the day, that's one of those things that I've talked about before with my clients. Is one of those things that we think is good for us, and it's not necessarily. And again, I hate that word, but think is healthy and going to get us closer to our goals, and it's really not. It's actually overuse of that stuff, because one of the things that when it comes to calories or it comes to our drinks is it is way too easy to drink our calories. Now that can have good thing. There's good parts of that, and there are bad parts of that. The bad part is when we start drinking things like soda, sports drinks, things that are high in sugar, high in fats, milkshakes. Milkshakes are another one that they're super easy to drink. How fast can you drink a milkshake versus how fast can you eat a bowl of ice cream? Think about that. It's very easy to consume. Now, Laura, and she has gone and talked to me before about the benefits of that. So why don't you go ahead and talk about the benefits of drinking your calories?
Yeah, so if you're trying to push your protein intake, which I have talked about plenty of times, if you're getting to the point where, and I personally, I know some people when they're trying to push their clients into like a caloric surplus, they push like the uncomfortable eating, like I'm already full, but I gotta hit my macros. I personally don't agree with that, but I do like liquid calories for that reason. And I just want to preface before I get into it, there are liquid calories and there are empty calories. So like a liquid calorie would be like or your protein, sorry, like your protein powder, like that does have some nutritional value to it. So yes, you are consuming liquid calories, but you're also consuming protein, depending on what kind of protein. I mean, sometimes now they have proteins that have greens in them, so you're getting some greens powder in there too, versus the empty calories of like your soda or your tea or whatever that pretty much just contain sugar and carbs, and you're not really getting any nutritional value out of it. That being said, if you do enjoy those things, like I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I never drink soda or I never drink liquid calories. Like there are times where like if I'm eating out, like yeah, maybe I want to have a soda, but it's not a daily occurrence or like a habit where I'm getting further away from my goals because of these drinks that I want to drink. Um, I was going to talk about this a little bit down the line, but I think it kind of fits a little bit better here. There are certain like replacements for soda. So like there's a brand it's called Olipop. And it's a probiotic soda, so it tastes like the flavors mimic, like they have like a cola flavor, so it's supposed to taste like Coke. They have like a Dr. Pepper flavor. They don't taste like exactly like Coke and exactly like Dr. Pepper, but they are a good replacement because yes, yeah, they do have calories in them. They have 35 calories in them versus a Diet Coke has 0 calories in it. But you're getting way more nutrition and gut health benefits and nutrients and maybe like that little bit of satisfaction that you want from that carbonated drink versus a diet soda which has like aspartame and I don't even know what else is in a diet soda. I mean, does anybody really? Like at least you can, I don't think so.
Somebody.
At least you can get some nutrition out of that. Same thing with like kombucha. That has a ton of gut health benefits in there too. So just trying to make the distinction between liquid calories and empty calories. Also with coffee now, there are like a wild amount of coffee creamer flavors. And I know people that like when I add creamer to my coffee, I personally would drink black coffee if it wasn't for like pumpkin spice. Like I do love me some pumpkin spice. I know how Dave feels about the fall bitches in the summer. I am that bitch. Um,
I
so
would
I
love
would
spice. Just I don't want. I wait until the Can we wait until like September 23rd?
no, it's always Halloween in my heart, okay? So I do love me some pumpkin spice, but I know like some people like their coffee is half creamer, half coffee. So we're kind of getting away from the benefits of coffee. Like, yes, coffee does have some benefits. It can with the caffeine. Sometimes caffeine speeds up our metabolism, is a little bit of a thermogenic. We do get some antioxidant benefits from coffee as well. But when we start adding in like the half and half, and we're using more creamer or and sugar and whatever, and I get you do have to you have to like what you're drinking. Like if you need the caffeine, you do need to enjoy it a little bit. But just try to be mindful. Like if these goals are something that you really want to hit, you don't necessarily need to like completely throw away everything that you like, but we are going to have to start replacing some things. And maybe your soda will be that thing that you're going to throw away, but I'm hanging on to my coffee and I'm not giving up my coffee creamer. That's okay. We just have to we have to pick and choose a little bit because if we keep everything all the time, we're just getting farther and farther, or maybe we're not making as much progress as we could towards those goals. So we are going to talk about Dave has a ton of helpful 0 calorie drinks. So he is going to give you some advice for those replacements.
One of the things too about before I get into 0 calorie drinks. So one of the things going back to what Laura said about empty calories versus straight up liquid calories. Like she said, protein, even milk to some extent, can add calories when you're trying to, especially when you're trying to gain weight and bulk or gain more muscle, and you need to start having more calories. Those things are extremely helpful. The other thing you have to watch though are the things that sort of disguise themselves as healthy.
Yeah.
Um, the naked smoothies, if we've ever seen them, a lot of
Ugh.
times look, dude, and juice in general, apple juice, orange juice, and when I was a kid, I used to drink the shit out of some orange juice. But here's the thing with orange juice and apple juice, I don't care how even if you squeeze it yourself in your juicer in your kitchen, what you are doing is you're basically concentrating the sugar out of that out of the fruit and getting rid of all of the fiber. So you're taking a 30-calorie apple, getting rid of all the fiber, taking out all the sugar. Now, to get one glass of juice, you generally have to have 2 or 3 apples. Next thing you know, you've got 120 liquid calories, empty liquid calories, versus 30 calories, 35 calories or so, obviously depending on the size of the apple. But on average, that's about what is in an apple. So what benefit are you getting from taking that juice? Yes, it's got the vitamins, but you're also sacrificing the fiber content out of the apple. You would have been better off just eating the apple.
And like
So,
the crunch factor, like apple, like if you have like a crunchy, like oral fixation, not oral fixation, but like a crunchy craving, an apple
uh-huh.
may give you that craving.
And I agree with that. A lot of times I use fruit as a way to satisfy. I don't have the world's biggest sweet tooth, but an apple or really any kind of fruit will satisfy that sweet tooth for me. Now, Juice is not the same thing as infused water. Infused water is different. Infused water is basically you take lemons or mint leaves or cucumbers, you let it sit in your water. Yes, there is, by the time it's all said and done, a few calories get extracted out of that stuff, but it's not a ton. Because, first of all, those things that you generally infuse your water with don't have a shit ton of calories anyway. So, maybe you have 5 calories in your water. One of the things that we've talked about before when it comes to that is the restricting our calories. So, the less calories we can drink, the better off. Now, sometimes we want something more than water. I get it. I understand. Water gets boring. So, when our mealtime rolls around, like Laura said, if you're drinking a diet soda or a kombucha or what was the other thing that I'd never heard of?
Olipop.
Olipop. If you're drinking one of those things with your meal, even if it is a diet soda, and yes, diet soda is not the. Is it healthier than regular soda? Yes. Is it still necessarily healthy for you? Probably not. But if that one 20-ounce bottle or one glass or one 20-ounce bottle of diet soda per day is the thing that is going to just give you that little bit of satisfaction, it's going to help you get closer to your goals. The other thing I can't stand with diet soda in particular, and I'm picking on this for a minute, I keep hearing, oh, it tricks your body into thinking it's drinking sugar. No, your body can't be tricked into thinking it's drinking sugar. Your body knows the difference between breaking down sugar and breaking down aspartame or Splenda or stevia. Artificial sweeteners aren't the thing that's getting you away from your goals. It's the other things that you're trying to keep in your diet by replacing your artificial sweeteners. 0-calorie drinks, though, another one too, and I'm guilty of this. And again, a lot of times when I am in a rush and I don't have time to make coffee or I forget to set my Keurig to brew, is I drink an energy drink, a 0-calorie energy drink in the morning. Right. Okay. So it's one of those things. I feel like we have to know when to have those. The other thing with 0-calorie drinks, especially diet soda and especially Crystal Light, they do not replace our water intake. If we're tracking our water intake, do not count your diet soda. Do not count your Crystal Light. Do not count your what else? Your 0-calorie energy drink in with your water intake. I think that is just, again, that is someone looking for an excuse to not drink their water.
Yeah, I think people
No.
do that with coffee too. Like people will be like, "Oh, I haven't drank any water today, but my coffee was brewed with water," or like my coffee has ice cubes in it. Like that doesn't count. And I think like with like social media, I think it gets like because we see stuff and then it gets in our head, and I think like not to like hate, like if you have that mindset, I'm not hating, but I think like social media and like influencers, they like make us think that like it's cute. Like, oh, I see this lady on TikTok and she is like, that's what I want to look like. But she says she doesn't drink any water. So like it's fine if I don't drink any water. But like we really don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to make like a funny TikTok or something.
Right. People. First of all, I've seen people who aren't watching their health or their fitness or working out or whatever, who are drinking more and more water just because it does. Again, going back to what I said in the beginning, it gets your system running better.
Yeah.
So drink water. Let me tell you this. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to call some people out, and I apologize. So, but if the shoe fits, wear this one. When people come to
Oh,
me and
yes.
they say I don't like the taste of water, one of two things. First one is maybe there's something wrong with your water because water really doesn't have a taste as far as I'm concerned. Secondly, that is just another one of those. I feel like another one of those excuses that I don't want to do this because I don't want to
I
make the
want to do
change.
something that's hard. Like it's
Right.
hard to drink water, so I don't want to do it.
Absolutely. At some point, you have to decide what what the journey is. And again, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening in, I am going to assume that you're here for some sort of advice. especially if you're picking, especially if you're not listening to us every week. If you're like picking and choosing which episodes that you good, and that's okay, guys. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you tuned into this episode that's labeled hydration, you're looking for tips on how to get your water intake and what we should be putting in our body via liquid. Drink water. Find a way to drink water. If you've got to chill it, here's a pro tip hack for you. Adding a little bit of ice to your water and drinking ice water will actually cause you to burn more calories because your body has to heat up the water. Now, it's not going to get a shit ton. It's not good. Drinking ice water isn't going to get you a six pack. I don't want everyone to run out there and say, "Hey, Coach Dave said if I drink ice water, I'm going to have a flat stomach." No, it's minimal, but it's one of those little habits. Just like I talked before in the nutrition with the spicy food and with the cinnamon, it's one of those little habits that the more consistent we are with it, and the more we do it, those little habits add up, and that's where real fitness comes from.
Yeah, if you need to tell yourself that drinking cold water burns more calories and that's why you're going to do it, like we're okay with that because at the end of the day, we want you to drink water. And sometimes there are like little tips like that where it's like, yeah, drinking your cold water, like you do have to you do burn minimal calories heating that up. Is that going to make a difference at the end of the day? Absolutely not. But sometimes when you hear that, like the whole like celery is negative calories because you have to when you digest it you like burn calories. If that's what makes you eat celery, I genuinely do not care. I just care at the end of the day that you're eating celery and you're drinking water. I personally don't like celery, so I can't relate to that. But yeah, it's not going to do a whole lot, but it gets
Water.
you to drink water.
Saying I don't like celery is like saying I don't like water.
Ugh, I can't. I don't like celery. I don't like cucumbers and melons, and they're all filled with water. And those are like the only things I don't like.
So, but those things, it's funny you say those three things specifically because most of the time it's something you put, like celery, I put in things just to give it some crunch. Or I
Yeah.
dip, like, if I'm a spoonful of peanut butter because it helps, just rather than just eating a spoonful of peanut butter, I dip the celery in it. This is one of those things. All right, guys, so we've talked about our liquid calorie, we talked about 0-calorie drinks. So let's go ahead and bring out the big old elephant in the room. Oh, you suck. Is that a magic hat?
No, it's a Jacko pumpkin. It's pumpkin spice is back, round two.
Oh, here we go again.
I got pumpkin creamer and pumpkin beer. Dave, how does that make you feel?
I like pumpkin beer. I told you before I like fall beer.
I
But
know, but
let's
it's
go.
August 23rd.
Right, yeah. I still got a fridge full of sours and seltzers.
I'm gonna put this away.
Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go ahead and talk about alcohol. All right. Now, first of all, when we're talking about alcohol in this context, I want to say first of all, we're not talking about problem drinking. So if you think you have a problem with alcohol, then please, we beg you to seek help. Now, that being said, Laura and I also have talked about more than one time, we both drink alcohol. So, it's not saying we have to cut it out. Laura and I are both pretty fit people. And if you look at us, you're going to say, we don't have the greatest physiques in the world, but no one's ever going to look at us and say, hey, those two don't work out.
Yeah.
That being said, there is a time, there is a place, and there is a way to drink alcohol and still have it on our goals. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to break you up into one of three categories. The extreme social drinker, meaning you only drink alcohol, not even when you go out. Like, you drink it like New Year's, St. Patrick's Day, one glass of wine maybe 3-4 times a year. Okay? If that's you, drink whatever you want anytime you have it. Just go for it. The more seasoned, we'll call it, social drinker, I'm going to put myself into this category.
Yeah, me too.
That's when we go out with our friends, we're most likely going to order at least one beer, sometimes more than that. You guys have the decision to make. We have the decision to make. Do we want to and again, this goes back to what I always say, does this get me closer to my goals? And if not, Is it worth it? Now, I'm going to give you an example. 2 weeks ago, I had dinner with my best friend. I haven't seen my best friend since Valentine's Day. I drank probably 3 or 4 beers and I had a shot. It was after my competition. I didn't feel, and I got up the next day, got right back on my plan. Guess what? It was totally worth it to have a beer with my best friend and it was like I think it was like a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday night, so it wasn't even like it was a weekend. It was a Tuesday night, and I had 3 beers. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Now, had my competition been coming up, probably wouldn't have done it because in that case, it's not worth it for me. So you have to make that decision. If you want to be somewhere in between, or I'm going to category number 3, you're the kind of person that comes home every night from work, or most nights from work, and has a drink or 2. And again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But now you're in the thing, I want to have my drink when I get home. So, how can we have our drink and still enjoy our alcohol? There are better choices to be made. Instead of having the Jacko Pumpkin, which is roughly, I believe, I looked up with Sam Adams and looked up that particular one because I looked up Oktoberfest. And Oktoberfest was like 190 calories with 23 grams of carbohydrates versus a seltzer, which is 90 calories with 2 grams of carbohydrates. Now, alcohol does have other effects on our bodies besides just the carbohydrates we drink, right, Laura?
Yes, so alcohol inhibits your body's ability to build protein, so it inhibits your protein synthesis. So when you are consuming alcohol, you're going to have a harder time using that protein and building your muscles, speeding up your metabolism. So we do have to think about that when we are thinking about our goals. So again, like Dave said, if you're going back and you're drinking a glass of wine or 2 drinks or whatever your drink of choice is a day, you're inhibiting your protein synthesis a lot more than somebody who maybe on the weekends they have like a drink or 2 with their friends. I think another thing that, especially with like the fitness industry, that kind of gets pushed a little bit is like, oh, well, if you drink, you can't drink dark liquor because they have more calories. So you can only drink clear vodka and whatever. And I feel like that kind of only applies, at least like my point of view. So recently, just to give you a little bit of backstory, my like relationship with alcohol has changed in the last couple of years. Like I used to be like, I'm gonna drink to get drunk. Like I never really got out of like my college like drinking habits. And I would drink things that I didn't necessarily like because I wasn't drinking them for the enjoyment. I was drinking them to get drunk. And now I'm kind of changing my relationship with alcohol. I personally don't give, like, I would rather drink a Jacko Pumpkin than a seltzer. And it's not a bad thing. If you care, if you're in a phase of life where you would rather have something that you can have more of and consume less calories, or you could have something that you like and maybe only have 1 or 2, but you genuinely enjoy it. Like that is totally up to you to think about how your relationship with alcohol is. Like if you know that you're a little bit more towards like, I want to drink to get drunk, then yeah, maybe if you don't really care about what it tastes like, maybe yeah, you should do the clear liquors and you should do the seltzers because the more that you drink, the more it's going to impact it's negatively going to impact your results. But if you're drinking for like a social aspect or because like, I really like fall beers and I really like summer beers. And I'm drinking for the taste. And because I'm drinking because I like the taste of them, there have been some times where like I have had a couple more drinks than I normally do during a given week because I'm drinking them because I like them and I'm not sitting down to drink to get drunk. So that's another thing. That's like a whole nother, like we talked about our relationship with food. We've talked about our relationship with fitness. Now our relationship with alcohol comes to play and you're going to have that discussion with yourself to find how your drinking is going to impact your fitness journey.
I'm going to say this: when I started my fitness journey, one of the things for me, I was actually when I first started, I was actually still playing in a pool league. So every Wednesday night that was a chance to go out, and I was still married at the time, so that was like kind of like our sort of built-in night out. So I would at first for the first couple of weeks, I'm gonna admit, or first maybe 2 months really, I didn't drink at all. While doing that, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna drink either a Michelob Ultra or a Miller Lite, and only have one or two. And that's when and again, just like Laura said, that's when I sort of re-examined my relationship with alcohol. Now again, I'm just like Laura. I like summer beers. I like fall beers. I like only but once it actually gets to be fall, um, I um, I have seltzer has grown on me. I'll admit that. But I think like if you're drinking out in the heat, I think it's a refreshing thing. But I absolutely agree with you. If you're drinking for the taste, a Jack o' Pumpkin. But anyway, not to get away from that. The If you're drinking for the taste, and again, these are the self talks that you have with yourself. What's more important to me, this beer or my fitness journey? And more often than not, nowadays, it's much easier for me to to say no, Dave, you don't need that beer, even when I'm not like actively getting ready for competition. The other thing is too, going back to the person that drinks, even if it's not, again, not talking about problem drinking, but drinks a little bit every night when they get home just to sort of unwind. At some point, you're going to want. I like to think that you're going to be able to have that relationship with fitness where that sort of takes over that need to have that drink, and you become sort of more like, all right, I worked out today, I don't need that drink, I don't even want that drink because I worked out today, because I am getting closer to my goals, and the natural stress relief that comes from exercise is going to replace the stress relief that comes from the alcohol, if that makes sense. Now, one other big problem, and this is one that I'm going to admit, guys, I really fall into. When I am out being social, and this is why I gave up drinking the Miller Lights and the, and the Michelob Ultras. When we drink, there's something that happens to our blood sugar that actually, the alcohol actually can mess with our blood sugar and cause us to feel like we're hungry. I don't know about you, but if I'm out in a bar playing pool and hanging out with my friends and singing karaoke, don't judge me. Um, I'm generally not going to order a salad. I'm usually going to order some chicken wings or some nachos or some mozzarella sticks or something along that effect. So I'm not making the best nutritional choices when I'm out. Also, most of the places that I drink in, you don't want to get the salad anyway. Um, but my point is, now that we've tossed fatty fried foods on top of the alcohol, our body is going to prioritize getting that alcohol out of your system. You're going to end up storing more fat from from those mozzarella sticks than you would under a normal circumstances when you're not drinking. So again, those are things that you have to navigate through. All we're doing is giving you the facts right now. Those are things you have to navigate through when it comes to your relationship with alcohol, especially in your relationship with food and fitness.
Yeah, I think a lot of times something that we don't really think about too with alcohol is like, so say you're supposed to be in a calorie deficit and you're in your deficit all week long. Saturday comes around, you are drinking 3, 4, 5 drinks. Those obviously have calories in them. And then with those extra calories, we're not getting the protein that we need. Plus, we're going to get the nachos or the wings or whatever. Now we're adding in, I don't know, 700. That's a pretty low estimate calories of food on top of that. So you could be in your deficit all week long. The weekend hits with your drinks and your food, it's going to throw you right out of that deficit. And you're going to be like, why am I not making progress? I'm always on it. But that extra day is what's taking you out of like your total deficit for the week. Same thing could go the opposite if you're trying to bulk and you're on it and you're on it and you're drinking and it suppresses your appetite because you have those liquid calories, so you may not get as hungry, which is what happens to me. I'm not going to eat because I'm not thinking about it. And then that takes me out of my surplus. So that's another thing. And it's not to say that like you're going to have this conversation with yourself and you're going to be like, wow, turns out I don't have a great relationship with alcohol. Let me just change it. Like it's going to be hard, especially if you are like a drink to get drunk person. That's going to be a hard thing. So don't take that as like one day you're just going to wake up, like you listen to this podcast and now you're like, oh, I have a great relationship with alcohol now. Like it's going to be hard, but we can do hard things.
That's right, we do, and I would like to say we have that kind of power, but Laura's right. If you think you have a relationship, a hard relationship with alcohol, just like we said with food, talk to a professional and get help if you need it. But again, examine your relationship with alcohol. One more thing I want to say before we wrap this up today, too, is that when it comes to drinking water, okay, and I'm going to go back to this because that I didn't have a great. I'm not going to admit I didn't have a great segue for this one, but whatever. When it comes to our drinking our water, there's a lot of different things that I've heard over the years that come to how much water we should be drinking. We should be drinking a gallon of water a day. We should be drinking a gallon of water for every 100 pounds of body weight. We should be drinking an ounce of water for every pound of body, or every 1 ounce of water to every pound of body weight. 1 pound of body weight, that's what it is. We should be drinking so our urine is clear all the time. We should be drinking so our urine is like a very pale yellow, like weak lemonade color. Dude, I honestly heard that one time. One time I'm like, what? No, I'm not spending that much time worrying about the color of my pee.
Yeah, no.
But the point is, yes, like Laura said, there's a thing called water poisoning. But if most of us are so far away from that, especially if we are going to the bathroom frequently, just drink water. Just drink water. The other thing, I'll tell you what, the more water you drink, the more time you'll spend peeing, the less time you have for other people's bullshit.
And you'll get your steps in.
And you go, what?
And you'll get your steps in. Your daily steps.
Right? Walk into the bathroom.
I want to talk about, like, I'm personally a pursuit of drinking a gallon of water. I'm not like a hard, like, you need to drink a gallon of water a day. I want you to try to drink a gallon of water because as you're worrying about drinking this water, you are naturally going to eliminate empty calories. So you're going to be so worried about, like, shit, Laura said I have to drink a gallon. But when I drank that soda, I realized that I didn't drink my gallon. So tomorrow I'm going to like lose my soda so that I can drink my gallon. So the pursuit of a gallon will naturally eliminate those liquid calories. It's not that, and you don't have to force yourself to drink a gallon of water either. So that's why I like to tell my clients to add things in instead of like, oh, you can't drink soda, you have to drink water instead. If I just say like, hey, drink a gallon of water, you're going to naturally eliminate those without me having to say anything. And
No, go ahead. Actually, it's funny that you said that. I actually said that to somebody today. I was thinking they were talking about they were having a hard time giving up soda today. And I was like, you know what? Drink whatever you want, but just make sure you get, and I said, a gallon of water per day. And they said, oh, okay. And then today they came to me and they were like, oh, I've been drinking that gallon of water and I noticed that I'm drinking less soda. I'm like, I was like, thank you. So I want to give you a shout out for that, for the advice, because that is one of those, I forget that sometimes, I admit. So.
So I actually have, fun fact, I have a minor in psychology, which I don't think I've talked about this before. So I'm huge on like the behavioral aspect of like why I want you to do these things. I may not necessarily tell you like, hey, you're going to shoot for the pursuit of drinking a gallon of water because you're naturally going to eliminate this. I'm just going to say, hey, drink a gallon of water and drop it at that. But I know what's going to happen. Another thing I didn't talk about quickly, if you have joint pain, our joints have liquid in them. We need water to hydrate that liquid. Some of it is water, some of it's a little bit of other things. So we need water to hydrate our joints. If we're dehydrated, our joints aren't going to feel as good as they normally do. And same thing with our muscles. I talked about that a little bit at the beginning with the sodium pump and all that complicatedness. Hopefully I didn't make that too complicated for you guys. But your joints feel better if you drink water too. And at the end of the day, like you have to find your thing that is going to make you do it. And as we always talk about, you have to embrace how things make you feel. And once you can acknowledge how much better you feel, the way your body is performing, the way your joints are responding, the way your muscles are responding, the way your lifts are, once you can acknowledge that feeling of what it feels like to feel better, you're not going to have any problem making your healthy habits. But if we're so focused on the results that we're going to get from making these habits, we're not paying attention to what we're actually doing, and we're way too focused on the results and not enough on our health, which I will find a way to drop that into every single episode, by the way. If you're tired of me saying that, stay tired, because I'm going to keep talking about it.
I'm gonna add one on top of that. Again, whether it's drinking a gallon of water, whether it's hitting that protein goal, whatever it is, there's going to be somewhere along the line one thing that changes you from, oh, this is a chore, to, oh, this is fun, and I'm finally seeing results. It could be that 5 pounds, it could be hitting that protein goal, it could be drinking that gallon of water, but whatever that is, whatever struggle you're having, trust me, someone has had it before you, someone's going to have it after you, and if you keep with it, if you keep working, you will get there. Trust the process. Believe in yourself. This is for you. This is for your health. There is absolutely nothing more important than your health. And the best thing you can do for the people that you love is take care of yourself. So, until next time, Laura, tell them what they can do.
You can do hard things.
Join us next time when we are going to answer some of your questions. That's right, we're going to take questions from our listeners and answer them. We're going to take turns. We're going to each give our input on that. So until next time, I'm Coach Dave with Coach Laura. Woo! Thank you for listening to the She Lifts, He Lifts podcast, Sustainable Fitness for Real Life with Laura Ash and Coach Dave Webster.
As always, we thank you for your support, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share the love by sending it to your friends and family and by leaving us a 5-star rating.
You can follow Laura on Instagram and TikTok at LauraAsh_CPT or Laura Ash Personal Trainer on Facebook. Follow Coach Dave at Rockstar Fitness on Facebook, at DWebster023 on Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram at SheLifts_He Lifts and She Lifts He Lifts podcast on Facebook and YouTube. Until next time, this is She Lifts, He Lifts.